Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, Labour's economic policy under Jeremy Corbyn and Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell is still a work in progress, but they've set out some of the broad principles that separates the party under its new leadership from the Ed Miliband era. Here's Mr Corbyn speaking at his party conference back in September.
The many, with little or nothing, are told they live in a global economy whose terms cannot be changed. They must accept the place assigned to them by competitive markets. By the way, isn't it really curious that globalisation seems to always mean low wages for the poor people, but always used to justify massive payments for top chief executives of global corporations? Our Labour Party came into being more than a century ago to fight that attitude.
Jeremy Corbyn there. Well, one figure we recognise from before the Corbyn era is the former Chief Secretary to the Treasury under Gordon Brown. Liam Byrne hasn't changed that much. And today he's been offering his own thoughts on where Labour's economic policy should go next. He's calling it entrepreneurial socialism. Everything has to have a title these days. He joins us now. So you've set out in a speech what you've called an alternative economic strategy. So what is your message to the Labour leadership?
Well, actually, my first message is the Labour Party, which is that we've got to respect Jeremy's mandate and respect his mantra that the fight against inequality has got to be centre stage in our politics. Jeremy's actually set out during his leadership campaign quite a lot on which we agree. So tax justice, welfare efficiency, industrial policy, green strategy. There's a few things, though, that I think are risk failure. So I'm not a fan of people's quantitative easing, printing money when the economy is growing. I'm not a fan of wholesale nationalisation, not a fan of pumping up public spending in a big way.
But those are the three planks from which his economic policy is going to actually spring forth. So you disagree with the basis of the economic
No, I think to be fair to Jeremy, I mean, he's called for a real debate, not message discipline. That's a good thing. After 20 years of top-down Millbank politics, actually, that is a breath of fresh air that's welcome. But I think that there is a different approach that is based on rewriting the rules of some of our institutions, like the Bank of England, like our capital markets, like corporate governance, like our science policy, national curriculum and social security system. And so I guess what I'm saying to my wing of the party, if you like, is actually we've got to get with the programme now. We've got to focus on the fight against inequality. And if we've got better ideas than those ideas we've heard about tackling inequality, let's put them on the table and add them to the debate. OK,
so you've got better ideas, you think, in the round than the current leadership. How are you going to persuade them?
Well, by arguing the corner. So
they've got the mandate, and in fact we've heard from John McDonnell that he agrees with much of what you say, but you've got to go in his direction.
Well, I think the whole of the party's actually got to focus on this central ground that Jeremy's mapped out, which is, you know, reversing the spiralling inequality that's now scarring our country. But to be fair to both Jeremy and John, they've called for quite an open debate, and actually we've all now got to get stuck into that debate on the terms that Jeremy has set out.
Right. I mean, Jeremy Corbyn declined an invitation to speak at the CBI annual conference, and do you think it would have been better for him and for Labour to engage with business at that level?
Well, look, I used to be in business before I went into politics. I was an entrepreneur before I got elected in 2004. So actually, I do think it's a good idea to engage in business for this reason. I think there is a widespread view in the business community now that current levels of inequality are unsustainable and are hurting growth.
What's the current
and we
view?
We need to make a common cause with those business reformers who want to change things.
Right. So, I mean, how big a mistake is it for him not to go? The Shadow Chancellor, the Shadow Business Secretary, no one was available to speak to the CBI.
Well, I think it would have been better to go to the CBI personally, but I don't think it's a massive deal because at the end of the day, as you said in your intro there, our economic policy is still a work in progress. The only message really I'd get across is this. There are lots of people in the business community who want to reconnect wealth creation and social justice, and we need to embrace them. We need to build a common cause with them.
Right. I mean, are you worried that by setting, well, I suppose you're not really worried if you set out this alternative economic strategy and you are getting stuck in. There's some of the fears expressed by parliamentary colleagues of yours here on this programme is that by not falling into line with the new Labour leadership on a whole range of issues, that you may be exactly the sort of candidate who could face a challenge of deselection when it comes to the boundaries being redrawn.
I don't worry about that, actually. And I think that what we have got to do in the Parliamentary Party is listen to the mandate that Jeremy's been given, listen to the mantra that the central battle now for the Labour Party is the battle of ideas in reversing spiralling inequality. And we've got to offer the best ideas possible. And actually, to express that unity of purpose, I've also said today we need to rewrite Clause 4, our aims and values, to put the fight against inequality centre stage and actually say to everybody in the party, but to the country beyond, we're all on the same side here. The reason that Jeremy Corbyn and I are both in the Labour Party is that he's not a Trot and I'm not a Tory. We're both in the Labour Party because we share an anger at injustice and inequality and want to do something about it.
Just briefly, what would you say to your colleagues like Tristram Hunt, who says the Labour risks turning into a sect now?
What I'd say to everybody in the Labour Party, which is to get stuck in. This is a battle of ideas.
Not give up.
What the Tories are doing is wrong. We can win this argument. Let's crack on.
Thank you, Liam Byrne.
Thank you.
I've been getting away with it all